Okay, today we're going to be looking at how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So if you're unaware, the quadratic formula is as follows. It is the solutions to a quadratic in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. The solution for what x is, if the quadratic's written in that form, is this. X is equal to minus whatever b is, plus or minus root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, right? And you'll notice we've got a plus or minus here. That is because we'll have two answers for x. Well, that's the most we can have. Some quadratics have no solutions, some have one, and some have two. 2 is the most that we can have, so that's why we've got the plus or minus there. And that's your answer for x. Now notice, this formula only works if the quadratic is written in this form, where the x squared term, the x term, and the constant is all on one side equal to 0. So in my first example A, it is in that form, but for example B, when we move down here, you can see it's not in that form because I've got it equal to 4 rather than equal to 0. So we'll have to move that 4 over, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But for now, let's just look at example A. First thing you should always do when you get a question like this is write down what your A, B, and C are. So my A is my coefficient of my x squared term. My B is my coefficient of my x term, and in this case it's negative 2, because that negative is part of that 2. And then C will be my constant, which is positive 4. Now I can just plug and chug it straight into the formula. So my solution will be x is equal to negative of b, so negative of negative 2, that's just positive 2, plus minus root b squared, so it's going to be negative 2 squared, minus 4 times a times c, and all of that is over 2 times a. So 2 times 3 is 6, right? Let me just work out what that discriminant is using my calculator. That is equal to actually a negative value. So we're going to get 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 44 over 6. So this actually has no solutions for x because our discriminant, which is this thing here, is negative. This won't always be the case. If our discriminant is positive, right, then we will get two answers. If our discriminant is negative, like this case, we're going to get no solutions. And if our discriminant is equal to 0, we'll get one solution. And discriminant, if you're unaware, is denoted by this triangle, and it just means the thing under the square root sign. So it's just b squared minus 4ac. So the whatever b squared minus 4ac is, that determines whether you've got one solution, 0 or 2. In this case, using the quadratic formula and looking at the discriminant, we can see we've got no solutions. Because I picked these numbers off the top of my head. So now let's do example B. I haven't done this yet, so I may or may not have solutions. But like I said, first thing we need to do is get everything onto one side and have it equal to 0, something equal to 0. So we need a minus 4 from both sides. So we're going to get minus 9x squared minus 4x minus 3 minus 4 is minus 7. And now it's all equal to 0. Now we know our A is our negative 9, B is negative 4, and C is negative 7. Now we'll plug this into quadratic formula. So negative minus b, so minus minus 4 is positive 4, plus minus root b squared minus 4 times a times c. And I encourage you to memorize this formula. All over 2a, 2 times negative 9. So now, before I simplify anything else, I'm just going to check the discriminant again. So negative 4 squared, so that's just, negative 4 squared, which is 16, minus 4 times negative 9 times negative 7, that's going to give me also negative 236. So unfortunately, neither of these have any solutions, okay? So I picked probably bad numbers off the top of my head, but like I said, most of the time you won't get that. In this case, we had both fall in that category there, but that won't always be the case. Say it was a positive number, then yeah, you have two solutions, and if it was 0, then you'd have one solution, because it doesn't matter if you add or minus the square root of 0, it's got to be the same thing. That's why you've only got one solution if your discriminant is 0. Anyway, regardless of what your discriminant is, it's the same principles and steps throughout. So I'll do another video going through maybe a couple more examples, but this is the overall process in a nutshell, and this is the big formula you need to memorize if you haven't already. So yeah, thank you, and I will see you in the next video.